You saw the thumbnail. I'm going to show you how I took this picture and transformed it into this picture. Hopefully you can use some of the techniques that I use in this video on your own pictures. First, what I do is I usually adjust the composition of the picture. For this one, I'm going to use 4:5 aspect ratio, vertical. Now what I'm going to do is increase the temperature on the picture to give it more of a golden hour look. I think that 6035 looks good on this picture. The picture's a little bit grainy. I used an ISO of 1600. Now with Lightroom's new noise reduction tool, this is super easy. So click denoise. For this picture, I'm going to set it at closer to 60. So adjust this amount of denoise. You don't want to go too high or it's going to make all the details in your picture go away. So no texture basically, which can look kind of weird. So now I'll click enhance. And it takes some time for this to work, so just gonna let it sit for a second until it's done. Now Lightroom's done with its noise reduction, so I'll zoom in to show you how good it did. So you can zoom in quite far. It's still a little bit grainy, but it's much better than before. Now what I'm going to do is separate the subject out from the rest of the picture. And to do this, I'll use the masking tool. So you can click subject or background for this. I think it's having a hard time select just the subject, so I'm going to use background, and then I'll subtract from the background using the brush tool because it has selected a part of the bird that I don't want in that mask. So if you click subtract, brush, you can start subtracting the mask from the bird. So I'll zoom in. And start subtracting. This is gonna take some time, so I will cut to when I'm done with it. Okay, now I have the subject and the rest of the picture separated from each other. Now what I'll do is press these three dots, duplicate and invert mask, and that will select just the bird. Now what I'll do is select this mask of the background and start to play with the exposure, darken the rest of the picture, decrease the exposure just a little bit. To separate out the subject. Then another thing that you can do is decrease the texture, clarity, and sharpness of the background to give it more of a bokeh look, also to further separate out the subject. So I'll decrease the texture, clarity, and sharpness. Now what I'll do is increase the exposure on the bird. Not by too much, but I I think 0.23 looks pretty good. Now I'm going to create a new mask with the brush tool on just the eye of the bird. To make the eye stand out, you can increase the exposure. To give it a more glossy look, I'll increase the noise. Now the eye of the bird stands out a little bit more. And on a lot of pictures I edit, I like to also include linear gradients. Adding these linear gradients also focus your eye onto the subject more. So this first one, I'll come down from the bottom. And pull up. And then I'll decrease the exposure. Decrease some of the highlights. And increase the contrast. Then I'll add another linear gradient from the top to make it look like there's some sunlight coming from the top of the picture. So increase the exposure. I'll also increase the temperature to give it more of that orange at the top. I'm gonna add one more linear gradient with a slightly different angle. Increase the exposure and temperature on this one too. And now I think the picture looks pretty good. So I think I'm done with it. Let me know what you think in the comments. I hope that some of these techniques can help you in the future. Bye.